differences from its original creation. As time has gone on and different generations have lived within the house and new technologies have been introduced, there have been changes to meet the modern family. For example, electricity is now set up. Running water now works, and probably my personal favorite, there is indoor plumbing. But as time has gone on, it has fit the issues that new families have brought up. And our founders understood this when they wrote the Constitution. They knew that this Constitution, this document, would not be able to address the new issues that would be brought up by the new citizens living in the United States. So they brought the process of amendments so that we would be able to meet each need and each issue, and there would be a stable document to help us with this. So today we're going to look at the fact of whether or not it is too easy or too hard to amend this Constitution. Now, to really understand the answer, first we will look at the fastest amendment to ever be ratified and see if maybe this is making our house, our Constitution, unstable. And then we will look at the amendment that took the longest to be ratified, and maybe that's making it harder to be relevant and making our Constitution not able to meet our issues. And then finally we will look at whether or not it is too hard or too easy to amend the Constitution. So first let's take a look at the fastest amendment to ever be ratified. The 26th Amendment, which lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. As Dwight D. Eisenhower was leading the men on the attacks in Normandy, he saw many young men who didn't even have the right to vote dying for their country. And he found that this was very wrong. And so years later, as he was president and giving his State of the Union address, he talked about this issue and talked about how important it was that men who were dying for their country should have the right to vote. However, still nothing was done about it until the Vietnam War came around. And at this point, the circumstances were much worse. Now these men were being forced into a war that was unpopular. At this point, it was just simply chaos. There were protests barricading the streets, burning down buildings. And so finally, Richard Nixon signed a bill into law that lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. Of course, Oregon v. Mitchell, a Supreme Court case, found that this was not legal, as no law could trump the Constitution. And so finally, they decided to try and make this an amendment. Within 4 months of submitting this to the states, it was ratified. So this was obviously something that was desperately wanted and desired by the states. But does 4 months mean that it is too easy to amend our Constitution? Now let's take a look at the amendment that took the longest to be ratified. The 27th Amendment, which prohibits congressional pay raises to take effect until the next set of terms of office, was ratified in 1992. However, it was originally submitted to the states 202 years previously. Being one of the original bills that was sent out to the states, it was also one of the only two to be rejected. About a quarter of a century later, 3 states, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Massachusetts, all ratified this, seeing that it was good. But they didn't encourage any of their other fellow states to do the same. So another 100 years later, Wyoming, in a protest to a congressional pay raise, also ratified this. But still, it received no publicity. And it wasn't until a university student finally took initiative. Gregory Watson, a student at the University of Texas at Austin, looked into this amendment as he was doing a project. And he found that this amendment was a great idea. And so in 1982, he sent out a petition to the state legislatures asking them to look into this. And within a decade, it was ratified as well. So does this mean that it's too hard to get some of our a very important amendment into our system if it took 202 years for them to ratify this? Well, we can see that the way the amendments are set up, a certain amount of states have to vote. And so it's set up in a democratic system, which is definitely a good thing because this means that it can't be too easy. Because that means that if it is an important issue, it will be ratified, but only if a certain amount of states vote for it. But this also means that it is only as hard as important the issue is. If it's not a very important issue, then the states won't ratify it. And in the case of the 27th Amendment, we can see that simply some of the states had forgotten about it. But obviously, if a solution is brought to the table, then as Gregory Watson brought to them, they found that it wasn't an important issue, and so they ratified it. What we can see is that by this democratic system, the way the amendments are set to amend our Constitution, it maintains that our House, our Constitution, remains stable. So it is not too easy to amend the Constitution. It is still a stable document that will only be amended if the states wish it. However, it is still able to remain relevant and modern so that it addresses our issues, because when important issues such as lowering the voting age are necessary, they can happen within 4 months as it did. So it is not too hard to amend these important issues. So we can see that it is neither too hard nor too easy, but the way the amendments are set up now are just as they should be.